When I switched to what I thought was the healthiest diet in the world, I thought I'd feel amazing. But instead, when winter came around, I was freezing. And the healthier I ate, the colder I felt. But then I realized something important. Feeling warm isn't just about what you eat. It's about the state of health that your body is in. And once that clicked, everything changed for me. We're here in Denmark, -5 degrees today, and I thought what better timing to make a video about how to move through the winter with ease. And before we get into tips, I want to talk a little bit about thermoregulation and how it works in the body and what affects it. So how warm we feel is hugely impacted by how well our thyroid functions, our metabolism, the nervous system, how calm and relaxed it feels, by the blood circulation inside the body, and also how much inflammation we have. And these 5 factors, when they are in check, then you are going to feel much warmer. You can be in the cold with much more ease and you can endure it. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of Wim Hof. I'm not a fan of ice showers. I've never really been into that. I think if you like it, that's cool. But personally, I don't think that's even necessary in order to improve, how sensitive you are to the cold. Like personally, I've never done any of that. And at this point, I actually feel like I can handle the cold quite well because I've really worked on regulating my nervous system. Very, very little blood goes to my digestion because I eat a very clean and simple diet that requires very little energy for the digestion. So all the blood flow that usually goes to digestion when we eat a heavy fatty meal, a lot of processed food, which I'm not saying that's not good or you shouldn't eat that, but just when you eat that, then all that blood goes there. And not only are you creating inflammation, but you're also not going to have that blood available to flow to your hands, to your feet, around in your entire body. And I want to talk a little bit about how a raw food diet actually improves all these 5 factors. The metabolism improves because now not all that blood is going to digestion, not all that energy, so we can distribute the energy more efficiently. We're also giving our body one of the cleanest sources of fuel that we can have. It requires, of course, eating not too much fat, because when you eat too much fat, then your bloodstream is going to be clogged up. Sugar can't enter the cell, and then you no longer be able to get all the benefits from the fruit. So very important to stay below 10% of fat. When you do that, this really, really, really lowers the blood viscosity in the system. And you can imagine blood viscosity being something a little bit like a smoothie when it's very high and water when it's very low. So when the blood viscosity is low, and it is being lowered when you eat a clean diet, very low in processed foods, low in saturated fat. So now the blood can flow like water through your system, and the heat can be distributed much more efficiently, because the body always wants to stay at around 36 degrees. When it's colder than that or warmer than that, then it can't function optimally. And the body will always do its best to stay at that, but we need to give it the perfect environment for that. And a raw food diet helps with that, not only by improving the metabolism, but also when we consume a lot of high water content foods like cucumbers, lettuce, apples, bananas, oranges, with lots of polyphenols, then our body is not going to experience as much inflammation. The inflammation is going to go down. And because there are very, very minimal toxins in the body that it needs to deal with and needs to take care of. So the lower the inflammation in the body, the better. And you can think of inflammation a little bit like an energy thief. So when the body tries to remove toxins from the body, it's basically going to pull all the energy towards doing that, and then it doesn't have the energy anymore to distribute warmth in the body. And yes, initially you might feel really hot when your body is inflamed, but it's a very inefficient heat. It's like putting the heater on full max, but then eventually the gas is going to run out and the heater might break because it's running on full heat all the time, because your body isn't a machine. It has its limits. So that's why it's really, really important to be very, very wise of, what do you want to put the energy in the body towards. do you want to put it towards digesting very, very heavy food and removing all the toxins from the body? Or do you want to relieve all that pressure so it can have the energy for, for fulfilling or performing all the important functions in the body? And then the last point I want to talk about is the thyroid. And the thyroid is kind of sending messages to the cells of how much they should work and how much basically heat they should produce. So when the thyroid works very, very well, then we're going to feel really, really warm and cozy in the body. And the way we can help our thyroid is, of course, making sure our hormone levels are in check, we're getting all the essential nutrients, but also by supporting our body by, healing the liver. When the liver is very healthy, then it can help to activate thyroid hormones. So in order to have the liver be healthy, we need to also eat a clean diet. So maybe with this whole explanation, you can see that yes, a raw food diet might initially make you feel more cold because you might not be getting enough calories. So it is really, really important, especially in the winter time, that you make sure you get enough calories. Personally, I don't really recommend to use the winter as a time to lose weight, maybe 1 or 2 kilos, but generally I would really reserve that for the summertime when melons are in season, when there's lots of sunshine, because sunshine also helps with lowering inflammation, with not having as much cravings, because sunlight is basically energy for the body. It's just like food. I don't believe in breatharianism or light, like in German there's the saying Lichtnahrung, which means you can only eat light. I don't believe in that. I think in our modern world that's just not really practical to do. But I do feel that the more sunlight I get, the less hungry I feel. And I am getting energy from the sun, but also from the food. I mean, basically food is sun energy. When you think about it, it grows on trees and then it absorbs the sunlight, and then from that the calories are going to be absorbed into the fruit. And yeah, that's one way at least. So definitely I think it's important, if you have a hard time figuring out how much to eat, you can use calculator apps like Chronometer to make sure you're getting your daily requirements, and then you're not going to feel cold if you're in weight maintenance. And then you can use the winter to really build healthy habits if you are looking to lose weight, to break those dysfunctional patterns that you maybe have, to really get into a good exercising routine. You can use the winter for all these things so that when it's gonna get warmer outside again, when melons are coming into season, when there's more sunlight again, then you can really use that time to maybe, lose some weight. But most likely, if you're getting rid of the inflammation, of the puffiness, of the water retention, you are most likely also going to see some improvement on your scale and how you look, how well your clothes fit. So even if you just transition to a raw food diet, it's a great thing. And if you're looking to do that, by the way, I am doing a 7-day raw food challenge this January. We're starting on the 11th. So if you want to join, send me a message on WhatsApp with the words "I'm in." I'll add you to the group. And now let's get into a few tips, because we've talked about how a raw food diet really, really helps with ultimately feeling more warm because the body functions better. But I still also want to give you a couple of other tips of how you can stay warm, especially as a raw foodist. So the first one is to really work on building some muscle and doing lots of low intensity cardio, going for lots of walks outside in the sunshine when the sun is out, or also when it's gray, and spend time in nature. But yeah, also really, really build that muscle, because the more muscle mass we have, the better the metabolism also works and is better at, utilizing energy, because when the body's very good at utilizing energy, it can produce that heat. And muscles really help improve the metabolism, but they also just generally heat up the body. That's why women generally feel colder than men, because we have less muscle mass, men have more. So yeah, but we can hijack that by also building our muscles, even as women. And yeah, just doing some push-ups, maybe getting a pull-up bar and some resistance bands as help. And yeah, working with workouts on YouTube, doing yoga, that also builds muscle. And then, yeah, the second tip is also to eat enough. Like I mentioned before, making sure you're getting enough calories, so potentially tracking it on chronometer. If you are a raw foodist, focusing on the bananas, the dates. If you're a raw till Foodist, then focusing on the potatoes, the rice, the pasta, the pumpkin, the roots and tubers. And yeah, also iodine and selenium are very, very important for thyroid function. So making sure you're getting those either through, for example, Brazil nuts or some tofu, or the iodine you can get through nori sheets. Personally, I think our body is the best messenger. So, you know, if you, for example, feel a craving for any of those things that I just mentioned, then really allowing yourself to have those in abundance and see if something changes. And then the third tip I want to give is to regulate the nervous system. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of Wim Hof and ice bath and, you know, intense breathing exercises. But I think it is important to work with the breath in a very calm way. So doing calm breathing through the nose, getting into the habit of breathing through the nose, because that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And when the parasympathetic nervous system, the one for rest and digest, is active, then our body is more efficient at distributing heat in the body. And yeah, the ways we can do that is by meditating, by really calming our mind, by doing breathing exercises, because that also signalizes our body to do that. So there's one cool breathing exercise I recently discovered. It's called smelling the flower and blowing the candle. So you can imagine how with the inhale you're smelling a flower, and with the exhale you're blowing a candle. And you can just do that right now, like 3 deep breaths. And maybe if you've done this with me right now, you can feel how you're already feeling a little bit more relaxed. It's so crazy how the breath and our nervous system are like regulating each other. And then also just making sure you're emotionally regulated. So finding solutions for situations in life that trigger you, and, you know, also dealing with the things that come up in those moments. So when you have a situation where you're feeling really busy or stressed at work or with your family, then seeing what kind of emotion arises, and maybe can I set aside time right now or later to deal with that emotion, so that your nervous system is not in fight, flight or freeze mode, but you're calm and relaxed. It's a crazy one. I never thought that this would actually affect how warm we feel, like our emotional regulation and our breath. But like once I started doing these things and I started noticing how all of a sudden I would just be able to actually even enjoy winter and not resist the cold so much anymore, I was like, okay, there must be something to all of this and there must be a connection. And then when I dig deep, I found, yeah, there is actually a real connection between how warm we feel and our nervous system. Another really important tip if you're on a raw food diet is to always make sure you don't eat food straight from the fridge. But for example, when I know I have a salad in the evening, I'm going to put the salad out on the counter in the morning, so that when I have it at night, it's going to be room temperature. And also frozen berries, I either use them very sparingly in my smoothies, like I maybe put 200 grams of strawberries or frozen berries in my smoothie, so that doesn't affect the temperature of the smoothie very much. Or I also put the berries out like an hour before I put them in the smoothie, so that the smoothie is not too cold. Because if you have cold food in your body, that really affects how warm or cold you feel. And the last one is gonna be sleep. And sleep is really awesome too, because it helps us to rest and to wake up in a calm state. The parasympathetic nervous system is activated, we're feeling calm, and also it helps lower the inflammation. The more sleep we get, the better our metabolism works. It helps with the thyroid function. Just everything becomes better when we sleep more. So in the winter, really making sure we have good sleeping hygiene. We go outside every day and move to have good sleep, because that's also something why in the winter sometimes the sleep isn't so good. But then we're also allowing ourselves to sleep more, because it is naturally a time where we're not designed to be doing so much and be so active. It's a darker time, there's more melatonin, and yeah, it's a great time to go in that winter rest and go inward more. And if you now want to see how 15,000 bananas have changed my life, because that definitely also helped me a lot to go through the winters with more ease as a raw foodist, then click here.